Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self Respect. My name is Jared Mello. Be advised, I did just create a Radical Self Respect community. It's going to be on Telegram, and it's a private place where I have to invite you into the group. And it's a place for people to talk about what they're struggling with and what's going on, and for the community members to talk to people as well. And there's been a lot of interest in it, and I'm trying to build that up so it can become a thriving community. And it's anonymous for one, and it's private. That's something that a lot of people were asking me for, a community like that was more private than Facebook. So this has been my solution so far. And also, please remember to subscribe to the channel here if you haven't already. Remember to like the video at the end if you liked it, and all sorts of comments help as well. And please share this video with others that you think might benefit from the topic at hand. And what is the topic at hand today? The topic at hand is how not to jade to a narcissist. And of course, what is jade? Everyone always asks me this question, but jade is justify, argue, defend, and explain. And narcissistic people, they are experts at provoking people into feeling the need to jade. And there's a couple layers to this. Oftentimes, someone who's been in a relationship with a narcissist, they've been used to having to jade their whole lives because they had to at home as well in their upbringing, where people were always second guessing them, invalidating their reality, invalidating their experiences, invalidating their feelings. And someone wanted to jade to get their point out there, which is very understandable, especially as a kid. But in our adult relationships, feeling the need to do the same thing with a narcissist does not help at all. And of course, mostly not being involved with a narcissist at all is the best way. But that's not always possible. Sometimes there's a co-parenting situation. Sometimes it's in family or the workplace. That's where these techniques really come in handy, because no contact is not always possible, even though ideally, maybe it would be. So when a narcissist provokes people, how do they normally do that? They will flip the script on you. They will gaslight. They will invalidate your reality, invalidate your feelings, invalidate your thoughts. And in other words, they'll get you second guessing yourself, and they'll get you backpedaling. And that's exactly where the narcissist wants you. They want you second guessing yourself. They want you in a place where you're not so sure of yourself or your reality anymore. And this is where the desire to jade comes into play. People want to justify, argue, defend, and explain because they want that other person to validate their reality. They want them to agree. And unfortunately, with a narcissistic person, that is just not going to be a possibility. They are committed to misinterpreting you. And even if you think they will interpret you correctly, they will probably just then move the goalposts, and they'll get you jumping from one foot to the next. This is why it serves no good to jade. They are not going to agree with you. They are not going to validate your experience. They are not going to validate your feelings. They're not going to validate any of it. And so what do we have to do in the face of this? We have to eliminate our desire to get them to agree and to get them to validate what our thinking and our feelings and our experiences are. We have to own it. Whatever it is, we have to own it on our side. And what we do, we own how we think. We own our experiences, and we learn to have other people that we can talk to that will more so validate our experience. We don't need the narcissistic person to do that, because they won't. But that's why it's important to have other people to talk to, like a community, like I mentioned in the beginning here. Those are the places to get your validation. And ideally, though, we would need none from anybody, but that's not realistic, I don't think. People are going to be human. Occasionally, they're going to need some validation. They're going to want someone to validate their experience sometimes. That's perfectly normal, especially in the face of abuse. In the face of abuse, they might want their experience validated even more. And of course, this is the cycle, right? The narcissistic person will abuse, they will invalidate, they will gaslight, they will flip the script, deny your reality, and it makes you want validation more. But you got to take a step back and understand you are not going to get that validation from them. You're going to have to get it from someone else. And that's why I always say the way to win is to not play the game. And not playing the game is not jading, not justifying, arguing, defending, or explaining, and not looking for something that you're not going to get. Remember, they are committed to misinterpreting everything you say and everything you do and giving you the least charitable interpretations of all of it. That is their goal. And I wish it wasn't that way, but that's how many of them are. That's why I call them slippery too. I made a post about this as well, but they're very slick and they're very slippery, and they'll find a way to subtly move the goalposts and then subtly change the topic and then subtly blame shift and then subtly flip the script. All of those things are the things that they do. And again, I'm not going to act like this is easy, but that's the motivation on why to not jade, because you're not going to get any validation there. You can justify, argue, defend, and explain yourself all night. It's going to do you no good. So you have to eliminate the desire to try to get them to agree with you and validate you. It's just not going to happen. So you got to let it go. The other place this happens a lot is when the narcissistic person is pointing out your flaws, pointing out your insecurities, picking at you, picking at your flaws, picking at your insecurities, because they enjoy doing that. It's like a devalue, and it makes them feel powerful. It can give them a sense of schadenfreude too. They'll get a little pleasure from seeing you uncomfortable. They'll get a little pleasure from seeing you squirm. And often the narcissistic person will quote unquote joke, but it's really not a joke. And someone once asked me before, there was a celebrity couple of which I can't remember their name. What the heck was his name? It was the guy from Change Up. But the person said to me, him and his wife, they're always roasting each other back and forth. What's the difference between that and what a narcissistic person would do by making fun of someone, making the other person the butt of their jokes and picking at their flaws? And I told them the difference is the energy. The energy will be different. That celebrity couple, they're on the same team. They're not being truly serious with their roasts. They're being playful. They're being fun. And it's really hard because you can't pinpoint an energy. It's not like some sort of factual, scientific-based thing. It's just something you're going to feel. And you're going to feel when that person's on your team and it's just a playful thing. You're going to recognize that. But a narcissistic person, they like to make you the butt of their jokes. And if we haven't gotten to a good level of self-acceptance with our insecurities or with our flaws, we might feel the need again to jade and defend ourselves from their joking and from their attacks. And again, though, the same rule applies with number one. It's not going to do us any good because they're not going to agree. They're not going to validate it. They're just going to say, oh, look how sensitive you are. Look how silly you are. And they're going to continue to flip the script and gaslight you. The way out of this is to own our flaws, own our insecurities. And for me, I try to think about what would the person even say? And I try to think, what would be the worst thing they could possibly say to me so that I'm prepared for it? And I find for me, when I'm prepared for something, it hurts much less. Now, being blindsided by something, that's the hardest. And I admit that's hard for me too, if I was blindsided. But what I try to do is, if I have to deal with someone, if they're going to be someone I have to deal with at work or in family, or if you're in a co-parenting situation out there, think about what are all the things they could possibly say? What are the worst things they could say? And then envision it, imagine it happening, and then realize it won't be that bad, right? Now, again, with custody cases and things, there are some things that could be kind of bad for sure. I don't want to invalidate or minimize that either. But think about the things they could say about us personally that don't impact our kids or whatever, and own those flaws, whatever they are. Because when we own them, own the flaws, own our insecurities, they can no longer be used against us. And, or at the very least, we know what they're going to say. So it's not going to feel like a gut punch anymore. That's a huge recommendation I have. I can't stress that part enough. And a lot of this can come up in journaling. I talk a lot with my coaching clients about journaling at the end of every day, just to process the day, just to process your thoughts, process your feelings. What kinds of things made you feel this? What kinds of things made you feel good? What kind of things made you feel bad? Just writing like that can serve as a very therapeutic process. And when we write down the things they may say and we just get okay with it, the edge of that attack when they do it, it will not hurt as much. And again, being blindsided is one thing that will hurt. But either way, if we try to really think about all of the things someone might say to try to get under our skin, we own those things. And for me personally, a lot of times the narcissistic person in my life, they would make fun of things that I was insecure about, things that I was ashamed that I had done. They would love bringing that up because I was embarrassed about things I had done, but they would love poking at that bear. And then I would see that narcissistic smirk of theirs that they were loving the fact that I was uncomfortable. And so I had to learn, what do I have to do to minimize the power they have over me? And it's one, I can't care about what they think anymore. And then two, I got to own those flaws, insecurities, and the things that I've done, forgive myself. And a lot of forgiving myself is what? Not doing the same stupid things I used to do. That helps a lot too. But this is all work on my side of the street here with this. And I'm sure there's work on your side of the street that you can be doing too. And again, this is what I work with people on. But owning those flaws, owning those insecurities, being prepared for all the nonsense they may hurl our way, that's the answer. That helps 1000%. And then finally, number three, I've mentioned this in other videos before too, but seeing the narcissistic person as an emotional 5-year-old. And think about, if an emotional 5-year-old said to me what the narcissistic person is saying, would I feel the need to jade? Would I feel the need to defend myself, argue with them, justify my reality? It's like, no, I would just see it as silly. If a 5-year-old said it, I would just laugh it off and say, haha, okay. And it would be silly. And I say it like that because mentally, that's what they are really. They are like a big kid that is about 5 years old. And I think this will help us, though, when we see it that way, their words, it will become less powerful. They will lose their harmful edge when we see it that way. Because if it was a 5-year-old kid for real, we'd be able to just laugh it off. And again, throughout all of this, gray rock will be good. No emotional reactions, just keeping things to the facts, keeping things to logistics. And you don't owe them anything else other than that, right? You owe them just gray rock. That's really it. At the most, yellow rock, which is gray rock with a little more emotion. But working on those emotional reactions and those methods that I mentioned, that's how to get rid of those emotional reactions. Because if you watched my video with HG Tutor, he said negative supply is more powerful to a narcissist than positive supply. And this is especially true once they've been in a relationship for a while. The positive fuel, the positive supply they get from that person becomes weaker over time. So they have to devalue and they get the negative supply instead. And this is just how it goes. I didn't make the rules, but that's often how it is. So we got to take away that brunt edge and realize, yeah, they're that 5-year-old, disempower them in our minds. That's how to do this here. And gray rock, least amount of contact necessary, keeping things to the facts, keeping things to logistics, no emotional reactions, very blah, because they will get off on our emotional reactions. So it's our job to limit them the best we can. So to reiterate the video here, number one would be, we got to be okay with our realities not being validated by the narcissistic person. They're not going to validate our experience. They're not going to validate our feelings. They're not going to validate our realities in any way. And we have to accept that. So we can't go hoping and trying to convince them to do so, because it's just not going to work. They are not going to let it work. They are committed to misinterpreting you, and they are committed to giving you the least charitable explanation of all of your reactions and your thoughts and your opinions. So when that happens, it comes down to us to not even try for it. Don't even try, because you're not going to get it. You're not going to get their validation. You're not going to get them to validate your experience either. And here's the other thing, though. Even if you did get them to, that's not something to be striving for either. Either way, you don't want their positive emotion or their negative emotion. And the best way to do that is gray rock, right? You don't feed into the positive and you don't feed into the negative either. The second one is own our insecurities, own our flaws, and see them as the emotional 5-year-old. That way, the teeth of their attacks will be the least powerful it can possibly be. And this is where journaling comes into play and preparing ourselves for all of the possible things they might say to us and preparing ourselves for the worst. So if the worst happens, we are ready for it. And we're not going to have some surprised emotional reaction. And we're not going to feel the need to jade because we've already been through this in our minds. We've imagined, what's the worst thing they could say? What could they say about me? And then we realize, okay, I got to own this. I have to forgive myself. And one of the best ways to forgive ourselves is to change our behaviors as well. And that's how you disempower them. That's how you disarm the narcissistic person and the power they have over our lives. And deep down, a lot of people do care what the narcissistic person thinks. So the way to not care anymore is to care more what we think about ourselves and have friends and have a community that we can talk to that is going to be a genuine place for support for us. And because we know that's what narcissistic people do. They like to cut us off from our friends, family, and support system because then we would be more reliant on them. So the antidote is the opposite. Get a support system. Go to a community like the one I've created, but there's also many others. And develop some friends, get some hobbies, and have people that you can talk to openly and honestly. Pain shared is pain lessened, as they like to say. And those are the things that it will eliminate the power and control a narcissistic person has over our lives, the more friends, family, and support that we have. The narcissistic person will hate it because they will feel it is a lack of control. They will feel like they are losing control over us. But good, we can't care about their emotional reactions either way. And we can't care about their positive emotions or the negative ones either. And of course, though, if someone's in a relationship with a narcissist and you expect they could become dangerous, you do need to make a plan to leave, right? Contact your friends, family, maybe even law enforcement. But sometimes when you try to leave a partner, it can be dangerous. So make a plan in those cases. I don't want to see someone get hurt on their way out the door. But those are the ways to not jade. And to reiterate again, it's for number one, don't be searching for their validation in any way. 2, own our insecurities and flaws and disempower them. Minimize insignificance and power, the power their words have over us. See them as that emotional 5-year-old. And remember, gray rock is your friend. Least amount of contact necessary is your friend. Those are the ways to not jade. And I don't want to pretend that this is super easy. It is not super easy. But once you get the hang of it, it can become like riding a bicycle. And it can become easier over time. And then you'll be like a gray rock, a ninja with it. And you'll be able to help all the rest of the community members and people that are struggling. And you can give back what you've learned. And that's the cycle here. That's the cycle. And as my man Ralph Waldo Emerson always said, it is one of the most beautiful compensations of life that you can't honestly and genuinely help another person without also helping yourself. So remember that too. So thank you for watching. If you've gotten this far, again, please remember to subscribe and share this video with someone else that you think needs to hear this, because there are a lot of people who get caught in the jade cycle. But this is the antidote. This is the antidote to that jade cycle here. Also, comment below if something else has worked for you that I didn't mention. I'm sure there could be other things here too. So if you have a way that you've learned to not jade and it's a good, useful tool for you, please share it in the comments section below so others can learn from your experience as well. So with that, thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.